everyone, it's Jan with What You Make It, and I am back with another card in our Christmas 2013 series. I have this really fun sleigh scene card to share with you, and even if you're not along for the Christmas card ride, I think there's some really cool techniques that you'll enjoy using on any of your projects. Several of you have asked where I get my inspiration when I'm sitting down to work on a project, and I thought this would be a really good opportunity to show you kind of that whole thought process. And probably like many of you, I have had my Christmas supplies put away, and I've just now gotten them back out to kind of start working on this series. And one of the great places I can go for inspiration is actually to my supplies. I can get those out, look at them, maybe see them in a different way than I saw them last year when I was working with things. And that's really where the inspiration for this card came from. I got my things out and I was looking at my stamps and some of the dies, and I still had some of this wonderful book paper left over, and I thought, let's just see what we can come up with from these goodies. So this stamp is a Hero Art stamp that I've had forever and a day. I use it almost every single Christmas season. I love it. It's a stamp from 2000, I believe, but I think it's still in their catalog, and it's just great for creating snow scenes and those kinds of things. So it's great alone. I think I'm going to use just a piece of it today, though. So the other thing is this Lifestyle Crafts 2-die set. It's the sleigh and the reindeer, and last year I used the reindeer, but I never got around to using the sleigh. So I decided maybe I want to do something kind of with that. It's a larger proportion die, and it might work pretty well with those trees. And then here's some of those book pages from A Christmas Carol that I used last year in making my December daily. And I still have them, and I love these pages, and I think cards with authentic vintage book pages on them are really cool. So this is really where I started, and I will clear these things off, and I'll come back and share with you how I began to put this card together. So here we are so far. I am creating a portrait style A2 card, which is basically an 8.5 by 11 cut in half. So you get a 4 1/4 by 11, and then when you fold it, you get an A2 4 1/4 by 5.5. So I started out with that, and I'm putting that on craft. I think it'll go well with this overall design, and I have cut a piece of really pure red cardstock to be my card front, and I have impressed a pattern in on it that I'm going to show you how I did. I love it, love it, love it. Here's an up-close view of it. It is burlap. It is a burlap panel, and I did it with actual burlap, and I'm going to show you here how I did it. I took my Sizzix Big Shot platform. I opened it to tab 1. I put a clean cutting plate down. I put the panel of burlap down, and you'll notice it's just kind of its own weave, whichever you have. Now I put my cardstock on top of that, a silicone or rubber mat, and then my texture plate, and I put it through the Big Shot, and when it came out, I have this wonderful, wonderful impression. So I know you're going to love that because burlap is totally hot this year. And now I'm going to get my book paper down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. I want a little bit of a space around it, and I'm using my Tim Holtz ruler, and I'm actually doing this measuring on the back side because I'm going to use my decal edge ruler there to tear the edges so that they're not really pristine. They're a little rustic. When you use this ruler methodology, I work on the back side of the paper to get my measurements, and then that gives me my guide for tearing. But because this is a card that I am going to mass produce, if you're using book paper, you really can tear several of them at the same time. It works really well. So I'm just kind of marking from center using my Tim Holtz ruler, and then using that to kind of go out the measurements that I need to get my 4 inches by 5 1/4 panel here. So there we have it, and I'm going to use my decal edge. And if you haven't used one of these, this one is by Plaid. I think it comes in a set of 3 with different edges, but you use it by putting it on your paper and holding the edge down again, the part that's under the ruler down very firmly, and then pull the paper towards you, and it tears a really nice decal edge there. So that will be my panel there. Going to now begin working on getting this focal image ready, and I'm just going to take some distress ink and just add a little bit of ink to the edge there, just distressing it just a little bit more. And so you can see that this sleigh is a little bit larger die than you might normally use, but I think it's going to work really well with this scene. And I've used this is a paper tray ink matte stack 6. I'm using the middle layer, but any oval spellbinder or label die will work just as well. You want just a little bit of decoration and a way to mask off an area that we're going to create the scene in. I'm using some masking paper. You could use Post-it notes or anything that allows you to kind of make a stencil out of it. So I'm putting some snow cap white ink at the bottom to kind of create the snow there. And then I've got Stormy Sky and Chipped Sapphire, and I'm going to create this kind of blue midnight dark sky back here just by bringing in some of those, just darkening it in there. And that blended together, the Stormy Sky and the Chipped Sapphire together make a really good night sky. Now I'm going to use, I believe it's, now that is archival, let's see, Jet Black from, it was the black ink that I had on my desk, but I'm also using Forest Moss to stamp with, and because the stamp has an edge frame around it, I just had to kind of wipe that edge down. And I put it on my mouse pad there, so I got a good impression. I will say that when I took the mask off, it felt like the tree was not as vivid as I wanted it to be, so I'm drying it really well. And then I'm going to actually, here's how I'm going to make the scene pop off of the book page. I'm putting the mask that I cut from the center of that masking paper, put it in place, and then I'm using some antique linen ink and just kind of distressing around it a little bit. And now I'm using a very fine tip marker, and I'm just taking my time and I'm outlining the scene by just using the edge of that masking paper as the guide. Just take your time, no hurry. It doesn't need to be perfect. You know, you've heard me say so many times that art requires a little imperfection. If it was totally perfect, it would be manufactured. So now I'm going to add a shadow, and I'm using a W3 Copic marker and going around this edge. And it looks really dark when I first put it on, but it actually, as it dries, it kind of blends, but gives you a nice, gentle little drop shadow there. Now I have two markers here, YG97 and YG99, and I just felt like the tree needed to be a little darker. It was the sled being pitch black is really going to be a very dominant image on our focal image, and so for the tree to really pop, it needed to be a little darker. So I'm just using the area that I stamped, and if you have used dye ink markers and dried them, dye ink to stamp with, and then have heat set it, you can go ahead and use your Copics over it. Now I'm using this Wink of Stella glitter pen. It's a brush marker, and it really, really, really gives you great sparkle on your background. I just put a few little clouds in, stars. And now I'm using liquid applique. It really wouldn't be a Jan Gray project, Christmas project, if it didn't have a little liquid applique on it, would it? So I'm going in and adding the snow. Again, I think the texture in this scene will actually help balance, again, that sleigh that is going to be so dominant. You just put it in, you put the liquid applique on, and you just kind of make it fill in the empty spaces. And now I'm going to use some Distress Rock Candy glitter, which is their clear glitter. And now I'm going to heat set it, because liquid applique, when you heat it, puffs up, and it will also act as the glue for the glitter. So that's how we can kind of get a little sparkle on our snow. Simple, simple, but I just think it gives such a great added dimension there. So now let's just quickly go ahead and put this together. I'm going to add the card front to my card base. That's the burlap embossed piece. And now I'm going to put just a little bit of twine down, because after I get this panel in place, I'm going to tie a little bow. So it's best to put your twine down before you actually get to that point. And you'll see here that this is a panel that I did not add the snow to until later, but this was when I actually videotaped getting this panel put together. So I hope you will forgive me for not going back and retaping this one after I decided, oh, you know what? We really need to give the tree some snow. So I'm just adding a little dimensionals up on the sled. The bottom part of the sled will be held up by the twine that's there. So I think if we just put a little dimensional up there on the body of the sled, I think we'll be fine. And that's all there is to it. It's just a really easy card, but has great impact. I love the dimension of the snow. I love how that scene really seems to pop off of the page. It makes a great card to mass produce and to send through the mail, because it's pretty flat. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this and even picked up a couple of ideas for your own creative play. And come back, we'll have another project to do soon. Thanks.